I hereby call to order this meeting, January 16th, 2025 meeting of the AMATS Policy Committee. The time is 1 o'clock sharp. I'm Kent Colhays. Mr. Downey's out of town this week, so I've been nominated to serve as the chair, so please bear with me. I haven't done this before, at least not in a long time, but we'll muddle through with help from Aaron and his folks. We'll proceed with roll call now. Mr. Holland?
I'm here, Kent. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Mr. Olds?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Boland?
Here.
And Mr. Littlefield is here in lieu of Ms. Zalico.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum with all, Mr. Colhays, that's me, I'm present. We have a quorum with all 5 members. Aaron, would you please do the public involvement announcement?
Of course, AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are first presented by a staff or consultant. After the committee is given an opportunity to discuss the business item, the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. A couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the public, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda, which the members have before them. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Boland, seconded by Mr. Littlefield. Any changes? Hearing no changes, are there any objections to adopting the agenda as presented? Hearing no objections, the agenda is approved. Next item is item agenda 4, the minutes of the meetings of November 21 and December 19th, 2024 for approval. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Boland and Mr. Littlefield, thank you. Any changes or discussions on the minutes? Any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the November 21 and December 19 minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is action item 5A 2050 Transportation Plan Amendment 1. Aaron, will you be presenting?
Yes, I will. Thank you, sir. So this is amendment number 1 for our transportation plan. As you may recall, back in November, the policy committee met, discussed the Safer Seward Hwy project and the cost increase that was anticipated. And the policy committee directed staff to remove this item from the MTP. So it is before you today for review, and we're asking for release as a 45-day public comment period. In the memo, well, can you scroll down to the tables, please? Thank you. So in the memo, you see that there are 2 tables there. The one on the left is the original. So that was the 2050 MTP prior to any changes. As you can see where we were fiscally constrained wise, by the end of the long term, we are more revenue than cost. So we are fiscally constrained. And then the table on the right is adjusted with the project removed. We are 146.6 million under. So that means we have additional funding there. So we are still fiscally constrained. The project is being deleted out of the MTP as directed. We've updated just the tables where the project is and then the funding tables. We decided to do things a little different than past MTPs, is to show people the whole document as amended instead of just that one table or one fiscal constraint table, so they can see kind of everything together. So that's why you see the lengthy document being ready and posted. As part of the 45-day public comment period, this will be going to the assembly for public hearing. So you'll see, as the assembly members, you will see it before you. It's a public hearing that will work and get that on the agenda as soon as possible. So that's all I had. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Seeing no questions or comments, any member of the public who would wish to comment on this? Hearing nothing, what is the will of the committee?
Move to release the amendment 1 to the MTP for a 45-day public comment period.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Boland, second by Mr. Littlefield. Are there any objections to approving the motion?
Yeah, this is Holland. I'm going to vote against it just because I I feel like the project should stay in the MTP. And I think the strategy, which has been vetted with the FHWA, is that we're gonna keep moving on the project. We're gonna cut it back to outside of the AMATS limits, keep the environmental document for that whole stretch, which cuts out some high accident areas, but I guess potentially there's a couple things that we could address those maybe with some HSIP funds in the future. And then I think when we get to building that part, we could probably revisit this, the MTP.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Any other comments? Mr. Volant?
Yeah, for clarity of the motion, this is to release it for public comment. This does not move a project from the MTP. We already voted as a policy committee to do that. So the action here is to put this out for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Volant. Any other committee member comments? Any objections to approving the motion?
But there was an
I
objection.
guess there was an objection, so we need to do a roll vote. Okay,
Yes, sir.
we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Olds,
No.
Mr. Volant,
Yes.
Mr. Littlefield,
Yes.
Mr. Holland,
No.
and I will vote yes. That's it for that item, Mr.
Yes, it is.
Young and Ellen. And so next item on our agenda is action item 5B, 2023 to 2026 funding program amendment 3. Aaron, are you presenting this as well?
Yes, I will. So this is our amendment number 3 for the TIP, our funding program. So there are a lot of changes here. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review the changes on the memo. I'm going to do just a pretty brief overview of them. And then I can help with any questions you may have. So some of the overall changes, we added in a project cost pre-23 column in the table. So now you can see any of the funding that's been put towards projects prior to the current years of the TIP. So you have previous year's fundings, current year fundings, and then you have future year funding. So you can see everything for the projects. This helps just keep everybody informed as to what's going on with the projects. It was part of the request from the state of Alaska DOT in their STIP response letter to us. So staff is adding it in. We separated out the match amounts for all projects to identify the different providers and the corresponding funding that it's allocated towards. So you can see that it's Municipality of Anchorage or State of Alaska or other, including if it's for STBG or, the different funding sources we have, just more transparency. This is also a request from the State of Alaska DOT. And then the last one for the overall changes is we added in, instead of rounding to the nearest thousandth, we are down to the dollar now. So if you see it in there as 5 million, it is really 5 million, not 5 billion. So this just makes it a little easier, I think, for everybody to follow along instead of having to translate into AMATS language. That was also another request from State of Alaska DOT. I want to thank DOT for their request to us. I think these are good items. They show the coordination between the two agencies. And I think this kind of stuff can be helpful in the future. I know it's very helpful for me as a very anal retentive person. I love all these changes. So I recommend support of these changes. Table 1, Mook, would you be able to go over to the TIP tables themselves and show table 1 just on the screen there? Thank you. So we made a pretty big change for the table 1 summary table. It used to have kind of a breakdown of all the different nomenclature that we use in AMATS, and it was really causing a lot of confusion for everybody, public included. So staff worked on changing this table to just be very specific to the funding sources we have, how much we have in revenue, and then how much we're expending on projects. The idea behind this is it's a little easier to see that we are fiscally constrained within the different funding sources that we had instead of having to do the hunt and peck method that was on the previous table. It worked pretty successfully for the NHS section in our last amendment, so we decided to carry it forward for the rest of the table in this section. So we're trying it out to see what people think. One of the things I've done, you may notice there's some green text or green highlights on the tables. I've done some conditional formatting for the Excel, so it'll pop up red if we're over, so that we have more cost than revenue, and green if we're under. So we have more revenue than cost. You'll see there's 3 columns or 3 there. The 24 had a little bit extra funding available. And then we have some significant in 25, about 5 million, almost 6 million. And then we have about 600,000 in 26. Staff does have a recommendation on where that funding can go towards, and I can provide that to you if you are interested. Let's see, table 2, roadway table. If you want to go back to the memo. Thank you. A couple of callouts here I just wanted to bring your attention to. One, Spenard Road rehabilitation. The utilities construction funding has moved from FY26 to beyond FY26. This was a slight delay due to approval of the STIP and getting the right-of-way funding. So we've moved it out a year based on request from the Department of Transportation. No changes to the total project cost. That project is still moving forward. Delays happen, but we just want to make sure everybody's aware of it. But one of the other big changes is 3rd Avenue signals and lighting upgrade. So after this project got started, the more it delved into what are the changes and what's required of them, because meeting Title 21 requirements, I think for the Muni is the right title, they'd have to basically rip up all the pavement to redo the conduits. It became a much bigger project than originally anticipated. So staff met with the Municipality of Anchorage staff and DOT staff and kind of talked through it. And we all came to an agreement that maybe more should be done on this stretch of road while we were out there. So there are a couple of things that are being recommended here for this project. One, extending the termini. Currently, the termini stops, it is E to Cordova. This project is now recommending that the termini stop at Gamble Street. So add about another 2.5, 3 blocks or so. And then additionally, we're looking at lane reductions, parking removal, lower speed limits, changing from a 1-way to a 2-way from A Street to Gamble, lighting and signals upgrade. So keeping that kind of original intent of the project, signals to always stop conversion. So there may be some opportunity to remove some of the traffic signals and make it always stops instead. And then non-motorized facility work along with drainage upgrades and improvements to meet ADA requirements. This is a significant change for the project, and we recognize that. So we're stepping back to give everybody just as much information as possible. It is a cost increase from 11 million to 18.9 million. So it is pretty big. The main driver of that cost increase is the termini change. The rest of it is all pretty within the existing right-of-way. So there wasn't a whole lot of impacts there when we're doing, lane reductions or changing of the parking in the area. So staff has brought it forward as a recommendation for you all to review today. And then there's some other bits and bobs on these other projects here. I'm happy to help answer questions if you have on them for table 2. Table 3, non-motorized, just some brief things here. Downtown trail connection. The only thing that's happening here is we're just shifting the funding from our CRP allocation, which is our direct allocation, to our carry forward. So basically we had funding available from previous years that's carry forward. To use up that carry forward, we're putting some of it towards the downtown trail connection project. Fish Creek Trail has some cost increases. These are associated with some additional design work that's needed. And I have an explanation for that if you need. Greater than anticipated environmental work, public interest, and significant pre-construction utility coordination with Marathon have asked for an increase. So there's some wetland mitigation that needs to be done, not in the estuary, but out at the coastal trail area, because we're going to have to realign the coastal trail a little to make this project fit with it. So the project team sent forward a request for this cost increase. It's about 1.6 million. And then another one to highlight your attention to is the non-motorized safety campaign, adding 300,000. There are 2 hits, one in FY25 for 150, and then one in 26 for 150. So this is to continue the good work being done by this non-motorized safety campaign in coordination with the Municipality of Anchorage Traffic Department and the Center for Safe Alaskans. They'll be doing some additional reflective tape purchasing to hand out to people. They've had a very successful amount of that done. And they're looking at doing some other efforts, including possibly helping with driver's education for low-income and minority populations in our community. So we're looking forward to that. Table 7, we have HSIP update.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
may I back up and ask a
Of course.
question about the non-motorized safety campaign. Just a curiosity. So there's been a lot of emphasis and interest from both agencies and the assembly and the public regarding pedestrian safety broadly and the vehicle pedestrian collisions that occurred. Is there an opportunity within this funding stream to maybe distribute reflective vests and things like that to?
That's kind of what they already do, actually. So as part of the reflective tape, they do other efforts as well. We did a report on it a couple of months ago, I believe, and they showed that there is actually like caps that they give out, vests and other things like that. They actually have people hand knit some stuff and they give it out as well. So it does a pretty extensive work on that. In addition to that, we're doing outreach efforts, campaigns. So we have bus displays. We also have stuff, I don't know if you guys have heard them on the radio. The DOT Municipality of Anchorage is doing that as well as AMATS. So I think it's a full throttle approach of everybody. And this is our ability to help contribute towards that effort that the Muni and DOT have been working so hard on for the Vision Zero task
I
force.
appreciate that info. Thank you.
Okay, table 7. Just some basic ones here I'll go through. The Gamble Street utility pole removal, increased lighting, moved the construction funding from FY25 to FY26, added some additional design funding in FY25. And then the Gamble and Inger Street overhead signal moved the utilities and construction to FY26. Then we have some other basic changes here. The big ones to call forward are there are 3 new HSIP projects. One is the Northern Lights Boulevard Road Diet. There's the Inger Gamble Road Diet, and then there's the Seward Highway Safety Corridor Variable Speed Limit. These 3 projects were nominated by Central Region for this round of HSIP funding. These were part of the projects that they came to us to talk about and get a letter of support from. So we're happy to see this from the staff end at least. So we're very excited for that. And we look forward to hearing from DOT if these were successful or not. And then there was one project removed, Pease Avenue Railroad Crossing Surface and Signal Update. Okay, next table, table 8. So there's a significant amount of work here on table 8. So I'm going to go through them all and just make sure everybody's aware of what's happening. There are new projects being added, and then there are old projects that are coming from the illustrative into the tip. So first is Abbott Road pavement pavement preservation project. This was in the tip previously, was removed as part of amendment number 2 into the illustrative, and now it is being moved back in based on a request from the Department of Transportation with updated funding amounts. Next, we have a new project, Glen Highway and Artillery Road interchange improvements. This is new, so this was not in the previous tip. So just highlight there. Glen Highway and Highland Road interchange preservation operational improvements. Yeah, I'm sure some of you have already seen this project kind of underway. And so it's being moved from the illustrative into the tip. Next, we have Glen Highway Incident Management Traffic Accommodations. So this is moving from the illustrative into the tip. So this is being, I think, done in conjunction with the next project, which is the Glen Highway Milepost 1 to 34 rehabilitation, Parks or Airport Heights to Parks Highway. That is also another project being moved from the illustrative into the tip. I do want to note that you may see some what appear to be duplicate projects. They're not really duplicates. DOT does a parent-child project, so they have the parent-child or a parent project as the overall design and kind of coordination project, and then they have different child projects that are different phases or stages of a project. A good example of this, you can see that the rehabilitation project for Airport Heights to Parks Highway has the parent and final construction as one project. Then you have stage 1, which is mile point 1 to 12, and then you have stage 1B, which are major culvert works. Each project will have its own unique tip ID identifier. Go ahead and scroll down a little, please. And then we have the Muldoon Road pavement preservation. This was previously in the tip. It's being moved back in. We have a new project, Seward Highway 36th Avenue interchange. Next project, Tudor Road overcrossing replacement. This was in the tip previously. It's being moved back in with a slight project name change and updated funding amounts. And then another new project is the Central Region ADA compliance project. So this is where DOT goes around Central Region and helps with ADA compliance on their facilities. That is all for the NHS table. This was all added in at the request of DOT and PF. Table 9, transit. So there is a lot of changes here. I won't go through them. Sorry, transit. It's just a lot. This is the basic work that they do to kind of make sure that everything's programmed as they need it to. This is both the Public Transportation Department and the Alaska Railroad. They both provided this information in the program. So it's there if you have any questions. Go ahead and go to the next table, please. At the bottom. Oh, yep. Here we go. Last, table 10 updates. So Campbell Track Facility alternate entrance alignment. There's a increase here in the project cost of 2.236 million. So there was some drainage work that needs to be done in this location. The project's out there and there's some significant drainage and glaciation that's happening in this location. So they've asked for some additional money to finish the project. So staff's recommending the funding to take care of that. Then 2 projects were removed at the request of the Port of Alaska. The first is the Smart Grid project, and the second is the Solar Design and Engineering. Another project's been added in. It's the official streets the Safe Streets for All implementation grant for the Burgaw Street corridor. This was requested by the municipal PM&E group as they received the state Safe Streets for All implementation grant. So we're very excited to see that moving forward. And then another project was added in at the request of DOT. This is the non-NHS pavement and bridge preservation project. This was a request for some maintenance work that DOT does on non-NHS facilities through our community. So those are the highlighted changes. There's a lot here. What is being asked is a 45-day public comment period release. Again, it will go to the assembly for public hearing on your iPads, and I think we have physical copies as well. You'll be able to see a timeline of where we're at with the tip. And we'll plan on releasing the amendment number 3 and the air quality conformity demonstration February. We're anticipating February 3rd at this point. It'll go to the assembly prior to us releasing it. We have to get things ready on staff's end and just make it available to the public. It takes us a little bit of time, but we need to get it into the assembly process ASAP. There will be a couple of dates where it goes to the assembly, and then it'll come back to you all in April of this year for review of the public comment period, and everything else has been collected. And then depending on how it goes from there, it'll go to the state and FHWA FTA. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions or comments from committee members on this? Mr. Volz.
Thank you. So Aaron, on this one, has tip amendment number 3 already been approved? These changes that are listed. So really the action here is to approve this tip amendment number 3 and then to release for public comment.
It's not really not really approval. Approval is not going to happen until we come back in April after the public has been given an opportunity. Okay. But it's seeking your approval to release it for a 45-day public comment period.
Okay, and then it comes back.
And then it comes back in April, and that's when you guys get final approval.
Okay, fantastic. A couple questions that I have. So I had emailed with you, Aaron, about trying to get some justification for the Fish Creek Trail connection cost increase. And I think you were going to reach out to Noah Keene, who's the project manager, and try to get some more specifics about why do we need more design money? How is the scope being expanded potentially? I think that I will just be transparent. I think there's a little bit of lack of trust surrounding this project right now on the part of the public, at least constituents who are reaching out to me. And, what is that money going to be used to do? Is it going to be used to explore other alternatives that the public hasn't supported, et cetera? So before I move forward with this, I feel like I need more specific information to justify that cost increase and what it's actually going towards. I don't know that I can support that. We can leave that for debate, but I guess the question I have is we don't have that analysis from Mr. Keegan yet, or we don't have any.
I do have it in writing. However, Taylor Keegan is on from the Parks Department. If you would like to hear if Taylor is available to speak on this, because I don't want to, it's hard taking it from Noah's speak to here. I don't want to misconstrue anything. So Taylor, if you don't mind.
I'd be happy to hear from Taylor.
Okay, Taylor, if you're on, would you be able to speak on this item?
Yes. Hi, this is Taylor Keegan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I am the Parks and Recreation co-project manager for this project. And the proposed cost increases really are having to do with extra and additional coordination with utilities such as Marathon, but also the current design is going to impact the coastal trail between the tunnel at Westchester Lagoon and the Fish Creek Estuary Bridge more than initially anticipated. We're looking to realign that area so that way we can improve a lot of the safety concerns. And that will require wetland mitigation and additional design. So that's really what that additional cost is attributed to, which is increased work with the utilities and the work extending out into the connection of the coastal trail.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you. And then I guess the other question that I had, the Academy Vanguard, the shift in timing. I'm wondering how critical that is.
In terms of,
We took it from beyond 26 to 26.
we moved a small little portion of it from beyond 26 to, let me get to the exact thing. Second.
For reference, Karen, which table is that?
It is on table 2.
Thank you.
It is project RDY 00013 and move the right-of-way phase from beyond 26 to FY 26. I don't know if somebody from DOT is able to speak on the urgency of that. And I'd imagine it's critical, but important to move it up so they can keep the project moving forward. But I don't know if anyone is here who can speak on it.
James Garzik, DOT Planning. All of the adjustments to both schedule and budget that DOT submitted for this amendment comes from the project managers. And, in this case, I don't know what offhand exactly what the project manager's need was, but the fact that she's able to move phase a year forward is a lot better than what often happens, which is phases moving out years. She's been able to expedite this project and get it to the right of way phase earlier than expected. So that therein lies the correction.
Okay, so can I have a follow-up question, Mr. Chair? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Thanks. So, hearing that answer, and I know James is just answering as he can, with maybe not being, directly connected to that project. I don't know, but I appreciate that. I guess I just look at other projects that are in this list, like the Spinard Road rehabilitation, that is being pushed further out, right? Maybe that's the norm, is that projects get pushed out, kind of as you're describing. But I look at that project and I'm like, oh man, that one's now going to beyond FY 26, but that is one that has a lot of community support. And as a person on the policy committee, I would want to see that one be the one that's expedited. So I guess a question that I have is like, are these all within kind of the same funding sources? Or, is it possible to say, as tip amendment number 3, I'd rather see the Spinard Road rehabilitation expedited and the Academy Vanguard put on the back burner? How does that work here?
I think it really is dependent upon the project schedule and what is possible. And I think because of the delays with the STIP and getting the right of way started on Spinard, I don't think there's a possibility of moving it up any quicker than it is now. And I think this is one of the things we kind of warned everybody about, is a STIP delay has rippling effects on some of these bigger projects. And, there is, of course, you as the policy committee can choose to delay a project if you don't think it is a necessity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that other projects will be able to move faster to fill in that gap that's there. This was a gap that was identified that we could fill in with this project to keep it keep it going, recognizing that some of the other ones were delayed kind of beyond our control. If that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Any other questions, Mr. Rowland?
No, thank you.
Any questions from other members or
Yes.
comments?
Sean Holland has his hand raised.
Mr. Holland?
Yeah, thanks, Kent. I think it's probably a combination of a question and a comment. That table 2, the Third Avenue project, it's, you know, we have such a challenge to deliver our AMATS program. Scope creep is, you know, one of the causes for our delays, but that seems like a completely different project. We're adding 70% of the funding, and I guess I have some time to learn more about that in the next 30, 45 days. Yeah, so, you know, those projects are scored in the MTP. Was that project rescored to see if it would still rise to the top with the scope changes?
No, staff actually talked about rescoring the project. It scored very high as the signals and lighting project already, and this kind of increase to the scope of the project we felt would only make it score even higher. So at the time, we didn't rescore this project. We can, of course, if you guys want us to, and bring that information back to you as part of the public comment period. We can do that during the public comment period, so you aren't waiting until the very end of the public comment period, if you would like.
Yeah, I think we can wait. It seems like it's a good project to me. I just don't know if any strategies have been looked at to maybe create another project so that we can deliver the signal project first, but maybe that's not a possibility. Like I say, I don't know how to, but I have some time to educate myself on that.
Yeah, I think what we're finding with the signals and lighting project is throughout downtown, because of how the signals and lightings are done, they put the conduits under the pavement. And so we have to basically go out and completely rip up the entire road to redo just the signals and lighting as is. So delivering just the signals and lighting project would be, you know, pretty impactful on its own anyways.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. And then the other one's kind of an easy question. I'm just kind of curious how many, and it's again, not a hard opinion either way, but how many comments do we typically get on these TIP amendments? Because kind of looking through the operating agreement, we're required to have a 30-day public review period, but you're proposing a 45. There are some changes in there. I think a lot of those projects were already in a previous TIP. But yeah, just kind of curious, like how many comments we normally get on these TIP amendments.
I'd have to go back. I don't have it offhand on how many comments we get on a regular basis. One of the reasons we're recommending a 45-day is if, say we do 30-day, it basically gives us February, and then staff has to do, you know, compiling of the comments and getting them ready. 30 days is just not really doable for us because it takes us a week or so to get comments together, and we've missed the deadline for our next TAC meeting to get this forward. In addition, we are required to bring this to the assembly for a public hearing, which is in our operating agreement, and 30 days is not enough time to get that done. And so we felt that because we're already going to be out there waiting to get through the assembly process, that it made sense to allow everybody to have a little additional time to review the document and get their comments to us.
Thanks. Hey, just thinking about solutions there. I know you're short-staffed and something we should take offline probably, but kind of based on that conversation and then the conversation that you had at the TAC meeting, we're collaborative, you know, so if DOT may have some resources that we can help you if you're struggling to get some of that work done. But like I said, let's take that conversation offline and see how we can help you.
Thank you. And our last, sorry, I'm just looking right now. So our last TIP amendment received 83 comments. And then the TIP amendment number 1, scrolling through, received 102 comments. So that's kind of the range that we get on the amendments.
Question, Mr. Young and Ellen. So at the end of the public review comment period, what is the next step that you do? Do you incorporate the comments? Do you present the comments and the amendment as it stands back to the policy committee or to the TC? What is the next step, and how are those comments dealt with?
We're required to do an adjudication of comments. So we basically, every comment that we receive, regardless of who it's from, we compile it and put it into an Excel document. It says, this is who it is, here's who we received it from, here's what the comment is. And then staff reviews it and works with other staff at both the Department of Transportation and the Municipality of Anchorage to review the comment and provide a response. So if they're asking, please add this new project X, Y, and Z, staff will look at that and make a recommendation. That document that has the original comment, staff's recommendation, is then brought to the Technical Advisory Committee. They review it and they provide their recommendation to the Policy Committee. All of that is brought to the Policy Committee as part of the final review. No actual edits or changes to the tip are made until the Policy Committee has reviewed that adjudication summary and then provides approval at that meeting.
Thanks.
And that typically is what takes a really long time. People don't really realize that although we only receive 80 to 100 comments, those are typically individual distinct comments that are asking for something that we have to research, provide a recommendation for, because we have to do a job, a due diligence to actually review the comments and say, here's how we can try and address your comment. And not just, thanks, let's move on. I know we put in there, thank you for your comment, because sometimes we do the research and we're like, we're not recommending a change here for X, Y, and Z. Thanks for your comment. We do have to move on. So it takes us typically about 2 weeks to go through all of the comments and get the comment response summary ready for review by the TAC and PC.
Okay, thank you. And then a follow-up question. So we've had questions from Mr. Voland about a project, at least one project, and a question from Mr. Holland about the Third Avenue project. Is there a path forward where the body today recommends this to go forward for public comment, but also formally requests answers to those questions that would come back at some future meeting and could be incorporated or taken into under advisement by the Policy Committee in the next action?
Yes, if you guys want to approve it for release, and then also add in, please do research on X, Y, and Z project and provide it to us either at the next Policy Committee or in email form, and it can be brought up in the next Policy Committee for discussion. And then that can be incorporated into the actual comment response summary. So whatever you guys ask for, staff's going to take it and add it to the comment response summary so the public can see kind of the whole public process, as well as, so DOT, when they do the final review, they can see it, and then FHWA, FTA can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments from the committee on Amendment 3? Hearing and seeing none. Any comments from the public? Online. What is the will of the committee?
Move to release the proposed 2023-26 amendment number 3 for a 45-day public comment period.
Is there a second?
I will second it.
Moved by Mr. Voland, seconded by Mr. Littlefield. Any objections from committee members to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Next item on our agenda is action item 5C, Safer Seward Highway Letter of Support. Aaron, are you presenting on this one as well?
Yes, I am. So the next item is this letter of support. So Department of Transportation reached out to staff requesting a letter of support for the Safer Seward Highway Project 98.5 to 118 from AMATS. DOT is putting in a RAISE grant application. RAISE is a specific type of discretionary grant program that's been around for a little while. The max amount that you're allowed to put in for is 25 million. So that is what the Department of Transportation is seeking for this and is asking for AMATS's support. The template with the language given to us by DOT and posted that to the Technical Advisory Committee with that letter for support. The TAC reviewed the letter. They had a pretty lengthy discussion about the project and providing a letter of support. A vote was taken to recommend the letter of support to the Policy Committee, which ultimately failed 6 against 5 for. However, there is a comment that I would like to carry forward from the TAC is if the Policy Committee releases this letter, that we need to update who the letter is addressed to, because I think Secretary Buttigieg will not be in office or is not in office currently. So we might want to just address it to the Honorable Secretary of Transportation and just leave it kind of blank. So we don't actually have a specific name on there. Staff's recommendation is not to support the letter of support. Reason for this is the technical advice or the policy committee just directed staff to remove this project from the MTP. And I think that's clear direction for staff on where we stand on this project. So it is up to you all now based on this information and bringing it forward to you for your decision and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions or comments from committee members on this? Mr. Boland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the RAISE grant, the RAISE program, there's max funding allowed of $25 million regardless of the project or project type. But it seems like there's a lot of potentially eligible projects, including highway or bridge projects, public transportation projects, passenger and freight rail transportation projects, port infrastructure investments, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess, you know, it seems to me that that DOT is really wanting to move forward with the Safer Seward Highway project. However, I'm curious, did the state apply for any other projects under the RAISE grant, since it is so broad? And I get that's question number one. Someone from DOT wants to answer that.
Mr. Holland, are you able to answer that in your capacity of your daily job?
No, I don't have the answer to that. I mean, no, I don't have this specific answer.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
So we don't know if the RAISE grant is being pursued for any other projects by Central Region.
No, but well, it's a statewide effort. So yeah, I'm not saying.
I'm not hearing an answer, but yeah. So I guess for me, what I'm confused about is, you know, this project. It's a safety corridor, but there's other safety corridors in the Anchorage Bowl, and I still am struggling with the prioritization of this over other needs in the bowl. So, okay, thank you. I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. Any other questions or comments from committee members?
Sean Holland has his hand up.
Mr. Holland?
Yeah, I seek to understand, and I don't understand why the TAC didn't recommend that we provide a letter of support. We're voting against injecting $25 million into our program. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, we've talked about it before. I just talked about the change in scope, that the project is still there. It's just outside of AMATS boundaries. The safety corridor is based on a higher rate of fatalities and serious injury accidents. So there is a problem there. I'm baffled a little bit by why we wouldn't support that grant. I guess that's my statement. It's more of a statement than a question.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Other comments from committee members? Yes, seeing none, I'd offer just my thoughts. It's an interesting situation. I've discussed it a little bit with Mr. Young and Ellen. Certainly recognize and respect and support the state's ability and interest and authority in applying for grants. And we all know that irrespective of what the final solution looks like, there are certainly significant issues on the Seward Highway. So that is a weight on the scale in favor of approving or voting to approve the letter of support. On the other hand, the policy committee did direct that the project be removed from the MTP, which presents this conundrum of sending forward a letter of support from this body voting in support of a letter of support when the body has voted to remove the project from the MTP or direct that it be removed. So it does present a conundrum for me. So I just wanted to kind of say that I do understand and certainly respect the state's interest in safety on the Seward Highway. And there ends my comment. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from committee members? Any comments from the public? Nobody online, nobody in the room. What is the will of the committee?
I move to issue a letter of support for the Safer Seward Highway project grant.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Holland, seconded by Mr. Olds. Are there objections to approving the motion?
Yes.
Objection issued by Mr. Voland. Any other objections? All right, hearing no other objections, this will be a roll call vote then, correct, Mr. Young and Ellen? We'll vote by name. Mr. Holland.
I think the yes vote is to provide a letter of support, but I'm voting to provide a letter of support.
Correct, that's my understanding. Yes is to provide a letter of support. Mr. Olds.
Yes.
Mr. Voland.
No.
Mr. Littlefield.
No.
And I as well vote no on this one. That motion fails 3-2 or 2-3. Moving on to action item 5D, letter on the AMATS boundary and operating agreement. Aaron, are you also presenting this one?
Yes, I am, sir. Okay, so at the Technical Advisory Committee, so for the Technical Advisory Committee, there was an informational item request to be added to the agenda by DOT and PF to have an informational item to talk about the AMATS boundary changes that were submitted back in September of 2024 and some concerns regarding the operating agreement for AMATS. So staff put this item on the agenda. At the meeting, DOT staff requested the item be pulled as more time was needed to get information together to bring back to the committees. During the discussion, the Technical Advisory Committee instead moved this to an action item and directed staff to write a letter to the Governor and Commissioner of DOT requesting more information on the concern raised on these two items. TAC had asked that there be two items to be ensured to be included on this letter. One, to have this information provided in time for the March TAC and PC meetings, if possible, and to provide an explanation as to why the boundary and operating agreement are connected in this process. So staff drafted the letter and posted it to the agenda. So the letter is there for you to review, basically just giving a quick background on the boundary update was submitted in September of 2024. And that we haven't heard anything besides a verbal communication from DOT indicating that the boundary changes will not be processed until amendments are made to the operating agreement due to concerns raised by the Alaska Department of Law. And then that we had an informational item on the agenda that was pulled. So this letter is asking for formally requesting written explanation of the concerns expressed by DOT and the Alaska Department of Law regarding the operating agreement and boundary changes. So this letter is before you today for review, discussion, and whatever action you would like to take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Questions or comments from the committee on this item? Mr. Littlefield.
Looking at the March 25th TAC and PC meetings, do you think we'll have the information back by then? Or are we being hopeful?
I think we're being hopeful.
Okay.
We haven't received anything to date, and this has been around for a little while now, since September of 24. So I think this letter is just trying to get it moving forward as quick as possible.
So we could quite possibly be revisiting this.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, if we don't receive anything by March, I'll make sure to let the committees know of where we're at. Or, sorry, in time for the March meetings, which is the end of, we actually put in here that we need everything by the close of business on February 26th. So we do indicate of when our need is for that to get it on the agenda. And there is a missing period. We'll make sure to go through the letter and add any missing periods that are there.
So, sure.
Other comments or questions?
I've got my.
Sean Holland has.
Mr. Holland?
Yeah, and I don't object to the letter, I guess, but I do support revisiting the operating agreement for a couple of reasons. I think with there's code that requires us to revisit that agreement at certain times, including maybe when we change the boundary. And then also we've seen some maybe changed practices from the FHWA and the FTA on how we include projects in our TIP. And so I don't think it's going to hurt us to revisit some parts of that agreement. And I guess in my mind, it's all about being able to deliver projects in Anchorage. It's harder to deliver projects in Anchorage than it is in any other part of the state. And, you know, that's okay. We got diverse transportation needs in the city. And, but anything that we can do to be able to deliver our program, we obligated 18 million in 2024, and that's just not enough. You know, we have densest utilities in the state. Our facilities are all constructed up to the edge of the right of way. And then we have a duplicate process with the STIP and the TIP. So, you know, I think I've said it multiple times that I'd like to see the boundary go back to the urbanized section there. But I think the delay is probably good. We have that peer review coming up at the end of the month, I believe. And I think that is a good topic of conversation for that. But like I said, it's a comment. I don't object to the letter.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Any other comments or questions from committee members? Any comments from the public? Seeing nothing online or in the room, what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve and send a letter regarding the AMATS boundary and operating agreement.
Moved by Mr. Voland.
I will second.
Looking to my right, seconded by Mr. Littlefield. Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Aaron, are there any other action items?
No, sir, no more action items.
So then we move to agenda item 6A, the AMATS Climate Action Plan introduction. Are you also presenting on this?
I will be presenting that today. It is just my day. I'm going to move over to the presenter's chair. We ask of everybody, so it's only fair to give you this quick presentation. Okay, everybody. So as you know, we are working on a climate action plan. Look, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'll grab it from here. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. So just wanted to give you a quick update on where we're at with the climate action plan, because you'll probably be seeing this a little more as we progress on this project. So we just started this project. So why are we doing a climate action plan? Well, we're building upon the Anchorage Climate Action Plan that was done in 2019. Back about a year ago or so, or maybe a little before that, we were actually going to be required to set a greenhouse gas target by the federal government, FHWA. However, due to some lawsuits in the lower 48, that got postponed for the foreseeable future. But staff felt that it's pretty important for us as an MPO to think about climate change and how we can help address it from our small little sector of transportation. So we continue moving forward with the climate action plan. The idea here is to have, look at a data-based approach to gathering the greenhouse gas inventory emissions. So, using the MOVES model, sorry, this is all complicated, but I have to get it out there, or other efforts, and looking at what was done as part of the Anchorage Climate Action Plan, and if we want to do that same thing, or if we want to head in a different direction. Then we want to do evaluate strategies for reducing future greenhouse gas emissions for the transportation system. We want to prioritize vulnerable road users. That's a big priority that the policy committee has set over the years for us, and staff fully embraces that, and we'll see what we can do. And then create a strategic implementation plan. Because what we don't want to do is just have this and then sit on a shelf for a few years with no actual action moving forward. So, kind of these are just basic talking points for everybody, but really it's starting to try and bring a plan together on how we can address the impacts that transportation has on our climate. I think we are kind of seeing little bits and pieces here or there in our everyday life. And so I think it's pretty important and timely for us to be having this now. I wish I could go back 20 years and do this back then, but unfortunately I'm stuck without my time machine. So one of the things to think about is our approach is not, while we call it a climate action plan, it also includes things like resiliency and resiliency planning. I know the municipality of Anchorage has been talking about this and looking at this for various things. So that's going to be part of what we talk about. It's not the primary focus. So recognize that climate action plan is a piece, that's going to help a whole lot of other things move forward as well. So be on the lookout for that. There's a lot to come. So what are we going to have in the plan? We're going to have a existing condition. So where are we at today? We're going to have a look at our greenhouse gas inventory. We're going to identify mitigation and adaptation strategies. We're going to develop a strategic implementation plan, and we're going to recommend performance measures or performance measure. It depends on kind of the requirement, what it's going to take to actually make that happen. As you know, we already have 40 some odd other federal performance measures that we have to work on a regular basis. So we want to make sure whatever we recommend out of this plan is doable for staff, both at the municipality of Anchorage, Department of Transportation, and AMATS as well. And then, of course, we'll have the final climate action plan. So where are we at with our climate action plan? We are just starting. We've already initiated the project. I apologize that it's hard to see on the screen. So let me see if I can zoom in a little. So we're in the very beginning here, just 24, 25, the greenhouse gas inventory. What we actually are, we have set up a stakeholder meeting next week, Thursday, the 23rd. We have about 50 or so, 50 plus stakeholders, a variety of individuals. ARC of Anchorage is going to be there. DNR is going to be there. Municipality of Anchorage obviously is going to be there. We've invited, for example, the Deputy Community Manager, Mark Spafford, I think is his name. Sorry if I got it wrong, I apologize. Because he's been working on these kind of efforts, Nolan Clouda as well. And a whole host of other individuals, including Department of Transportation. James will be there. I'll drag him there, so that'll be fun. And then we have a couple other people. Christine Langley with their data modernization group will be there. The idea here is to get a ton of people in the room and talk to them about what we're planning on doing with this plan, give them kind of a baseline for everybody to work from, and then spend time engaging with them as stakeholders and say, what do you do on your regular basis that could feed into this? Or what have you done that's related to climate action? And then maybe some lessons learned. Because some people have been working on this for a really long time. They may have some pitfalls that they could tell us that we know to avoid. Or to help bring up other topics that we may have missed in our kind of initial setup for this plan. So we're really hoping to get a good amount of engagement from these folks. We'll have 3 meetings with the stakeholders. So this is the very first one. The plan is anticipated to be done by we have 26 in there, but we're looking at actually extending the timeline a little to give more public involvement. So we're probably going to be in 27 by the time you see the final plan involved. I was looking over the schedule with the consultants the other day, and we realized we had some more time available. So we're going to utilize it. Sorry, a second, let me get back to okay, how will you be engaged? So you'll be engaged throughout the whole project. So this is the first time you're seeing it. It is not the last time. You'll probably be sick of it by the time the plan is done. So just get yourself ready. I love this topic, so I'm very excited about it. And when I get excited, everybody has to come along with me. So we'll do the project introduction. We'll do regular status updates. We'll, of course, try and do some stakeholder outreach, probably with you all. It'd be nice to maybe go to the assembly and get your guys' feedback on it as well. We, of course, will hear from the mayor's office, having a stakeholder there. DOT is a key partner as well. So you'll all be involved. And if you have questions throughout, please just reach out at any time and I can help give you more information. We'll do the comment review period for the plan, and we'll bring back any of the comments that we hear to you all for the final approval process, which again is anticipated in 2027. That was real quick where it really started. I don't have a lot to share with you at this point, but I hope that gets you all excited about this as I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. I have a question.
Yes.
Well, let me call the agenda here. Any questions or comments from the committee? I'll open the floor to other members if I have a question. Hearing none, I have a question. So how would you envision that this plan, once finalized and adopted, interplays with the project ranking, and will it become a criteria that you're using to rank projects? And just, you probably don't have details, but just broadly, how would this and compliance or conformance with this plan play into how we rank projects that cross the gamut of needs in Anchorage and not only addressing climate?
Yeah, I think it'll be part of there's the implementation plan. So we're hoping that the implementation plan will develop something for us to draw from for projects that we can pull out and put into the tip and move forward on. as well as helping us with the criteria. So is a project in alignment with our climate action plan, or is it in disalignment with it? For example, typically single occupancy vehicle projects would be in disalignment with the climate action plan versus non-single occupancy vehicle projects, which is pretty similar to other things we have in there already. So that is not a new thing, but I think what it's going to allow us to do is really hone in and focus some of the existing criteria we have and actually draw from a plan that is based on data instead of this is our best guess. So that's one kind of major approach. And it's really there to give people an idea what are one of the priorities of AMATS. And climate change is a priority and everything that goes along with it. So it gives people a better understanding of maybe the types of projects that are selected in the future are focused on this. They're not the only ones, but it's a big one. It's very similar to our safety plan, our non-motorized plan, our soon-to-be complete street topology plan. It's all kind of that gambit of things that we use to help us in our process as we move forward with project selection or data gathering that we do or analyses we do, everything.
Great, thank you.
Well, and sorry,
Go ahead, please.
and the hope is if we ever get to a point where we're required to do a greenhouse gas target, we're already a step ahead and we have it ready to go.
Thank you, Aaron. Any other questions or comments from committee members? Any comments from the public regarding this? Seeing nothing online and nothing in the room. Aaron, appreciate the update on that and look forward to more information as it comes out.
Thank you.
Are there any other project or plan updates?
None.
None. We'll move on to item 7 on the agenda, committee member comments. Do any members have comments regarding the meeting today or any other items?
I do have one.
Mr. Rowland.
There's been a request from some folks who are interested in weighing in on the Seward Glen Connection Pell study. I know that there was a meeting, I believe it was last night or the night before, with a few different community council folks, Fairview, Rogers Park, Airport Heights, just trying to get into alignment, on how the future of this project and any proposed alternatives could impact those various neighborhoods. I think they want a little bit more time so folks who are part of that discussion can then go back to their community councils and do their process. A lot of community councils have a process where they have to introduce a resolution 1 month and then can't take action on it to the following month. So I think the published deadline for comment right now is January 23rd. But they would like to see an extension of potentially at least another month so that the community councils can formally weigh in as advisory bodies. So just want to make everybody apprised of that situation, and for what it's worth for the DOT folks who are listening, there is interest in that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland. Other committee member comments?
Sean Holland has his hand up.
Mr. Holland.
Yeah, and I can speak to that, Dr. Boland. I don't think there's a problem with extending that comment period. It will be helpful if community council sent us just an email to the project group and stated the reason. And yeah, I think we want to give people enough time to be able to comment on that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
I can take that back.
Okay, great. And I'll just, if Galen's not on, I'll let him know that is coming. And then my other comment was pretty simple. I just thank Kent for filling in for me on late notice. And man, you set a new bar there, but it's 2:04. So I guess we got to finish the next meeting in an hour. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Glad to help out. Any other comments from members? Seeing none, any members of the public have comments?
I will have a comment. Sorry, I wanted to give other members of the public the opportunity. So I'm very excited to announce that we have a new staff member at AMATS after a long awaited time. So Leifi Felice is here in the audience. She is joining us. She was at the current planning in the front counter. So we grabbed her and pulled her back to AMATS, and so we appreciate that. Leifi does come with a lot of experience working with local governments, and so we're very excited. She'll be focusing on the TransCAD modeling software, And she'll also be working on getting AMATS up to speed with GIS capabilities. So look forward for that in the future. We're really excited to have her here as an associate planner. And I would say, welcome, Leify. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Welcome, Leify. Thank you.
So I have, thank you, sir.
Glad to have you aboard the AMATS team. I see nothing else on the agenda other than adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Seconded.
No need to.
Any objections to adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 2:05.
See y'all.